In this video, I'm going to talk about MDF terrain and why you might want to have it on your gaming board. MDF terrain hasn't been around for a really long time within wargaming. I don't think that there was MDF terrain much, not kits you could buy too frequently, probably longer than 10 years ago. So I would say somewhere around 10 years ago, somebody started kind of making these kits. One of the first kits that I bought was from an Australian company, and they weren't even using lasers yet. They were using MDF, which is, I believe, medium density fiberboard, but they were using it, and they were using what's known as a CNC router, which is a computer-controlled kind of router that cuts the holes that you need, and then you would get it flat packed, and then you would break it all apart and then stick it together, and that would make your terrain. Nowadays, it's mostly lasers, which I love to say just in general, that nowadays it's mostly lasers. But when we're talking about MDF terrain, we're almost always saying MDF laser cut terrain because it uses less of the actual space. That router bit that gets in there cuts like maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch kind of trench as it cuts all the shapes out, so then you can't get the shapes real close together. You can't get super fine detail. You can't usually get real sharp corners. So this kind of thing, now getting into laser cut terrain is really pretty cool. Usually when you get your MDF terrain, it comes kind of like this. It comes flat packed, shrink wrapped, and almost like IKEA furniture, and you have to put it together like IKEA furniture. So this is a Rust Pointe hovel, which Austin from Death Ray Designs sent to me, and this is MDF terrain. You put it all together yourself, but there's parts in here that are not MDF, which I'll kind of mention in a little bit, but this is what it comes in. Usually you see something where it's either shrink wrapped or it's in a very thin box or maybe even an envelope, and then you end up punching out all the pieces. You can see on the back here, you can see the laser cut, and you punch out all the pieces. Maybe you sand a little bit. They always smell like burned wood because of the laser, which is always sort of nice. And then once you've put it together, you start building, and then you eventually kind of start, sometimes you can start playing with it right away. If you're one of those people that doesn't care what it looks like too much, you can just put it together and start playing right away. Now there's two main types in my opinion, of MDF terrain. There's the kind that's very kind of tab A into slot B, and they go together, and just the tension of sliding the parts together holds everything together. One of the upsides to that type is you don't need to glue it, and you could put it together, and then you could take it apart again, and then store it flat, and then travel with terrain, I guess. The thing is that, in my opinion, when you see that terrain, you can always really spot the tabs and the slots and all that kind of stuff that holds everything together with that tension. And over time, if you use it a lot over and over and over, you start to kind of grind those slots together and the tabs, and then things start to get loose, and then things don't stick together as well as they kind of used to. The other type of terrain, which is the kind that I generally prefer, is the type that most everything from Death Ray Designs does, and that is, it fits together nicely, but you have to glue it. It will not generally stand on its own. And when you do that, you can really hide a lot of the joins. You can hide the physics that's holding it together because you're actually using glue. So like I said, this is the Rust Pointe hovel, one of the many post-apocalyptic cool buildings. I've got a couple here that I've painted. So this is what it looks like once you've got something kind of put together. These are, you can see on the inside, that's still MDF color in there. And it's basically just 4 walls you glue together. They have kind of like, they're not exactly tab in the slot. It's sort of like there's a top part and a bottom part, and they just fit together. And it's not like, I don't know if it's mortised. I'm not a woodworker, so I don't know exactly what you'd call that. But they fit together pretty much just one way, but they will not just like play together. They have to be glued together. Generally, you want to use wood glue on this kind of MDF. So yeah, I used wood glue, kind of a little bit of a clamping, but it sets up pretty quickly. Something like this kit's a little bit more detailed in that it comes with lots of other stuff. You see this corrugated stuff here and here. That's plastic. As you can see in the kit, that's white plastic. So that, when you glue that to the MDF, you're probably going to want to use CA glue, maybe plastic glue, super glue, whatever. But I don't know that the wood glue would do a great job. So there's a lot of other bits, as you can kind of see, that come on this thing. There's like little tires, which are also made out of the MDF, and there's little bricks and cinder blocks and all kinds of stuff. And these kits are cool because they're designed, yeah, you know, the walls and the roof, they go together, but then all the rest of this stuff that's in here, that's just all up to me as the person putting it together. I decided that there's gonna be a piece of this plastic here. I clipped it off, stuck it on there. You've got some corrugated, a little, what do you call it? Like a little, you know, rain kind of roof over the door so you don't get wet when you're coming in and out of your hovel. And it just kind of goes together really easily, but then there's a lot of things you can customize, and then the paint. And the paint's kind of the important part. So once you've got your piece of MDF built, one of the most important things to do is to prime. And Austin told me directly, Rust-Oleum filler primer is what he has found so far to be just about the best. The issue with MDF is that a normal primer, like if you just try to use your airbrush to prime it, that MDF will soak up paint quite a bit. So you can prime it and then walk away and come back and it will have soaked up a lot of the primer, and you'll still kind of see some patchy wood, and you'd have to do like layer after layer of primer sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. With something like this, you do one really light layer, let it dry, and then you cover it again, and then you're pretty much done. Now, it's harder to find, I'm not gonna lie. I had to go to a bunch of stores to find this stuff, and it seems to only come in gray. So if you're one of those that's like, oh, I only do white or I only prime in black, you're gonna have to do gray on this from what I can see. But this stuff did work great. I did this one, like I said, I just showed you this one, and then I also did another larger hovel, because there's a lot of different buildings that come in this line from Death Ray Designs. It's called Rust Pointe, and it's all post-apocalyptic stuff. He's got lots of other stuff out there, but there are also other companies out there that are doing a lot of this MDF stuff. Things for Infinity, things for 40K, things for fantasy. Some companies make them where they're already almost pre-colored. I think there's a company called Foreground that does that. I generally prefer to paint my own stuff, so that's why I kind of like these things. And plus I'm a nut for post-apocalyptic stuff, like as you know. Other bits that are interesting with this stuff, there's also a piece of cardboard in there that's laser cut and has these little patches that you can kind of glue on. So there's plastic bits, cardboard bits, and then the MDF. All this went together really quickly. I primed it outside, let it dry overnight. Then I attacked it with my airbrush, and I did some wash after I had done that kind of gray and some of the shading. I did some brush painting on some of these other pieces, but I wanted everything to look very gray and old because it's, you know, it's post-apocalyptic. And then I just did some rust effects with, you know, like a little piece of sponge, like the stuff that comes in blister packs, and did some browns and some oranges, and pretty much it. That's done. That's finished terrain. So you've got these pieces now very quickly that are easy to ship, because they come in a little flat pack, kind of almost pseudo IKEA. You get these things, you put them together, keep them on your table, you've got great terrain really quickly. And you know, it doesn't work for everything. I think that very organic shapes, it's very difficult to get very organic shapes done in this sort of situation. But shanties like this, military kind of bunkery type things work great in this. Futuristic apartments and things like that, and walkways and catwalks. There's tons of companies out there that are making catwalks and landing pads and all kinds of sci-fi stuff. He's the only guy, Death Ray Designs is the only people that I know that are making post-apocalyptic MDF kits. I haven't seen the others out there. If there are some out there, let me know in the comments below, but these are really cool and I like them a lot. So MDF is a really great solution for getting terrain built quickly and relatively inexpensively. I mean, these are pretty inexpensive kits, and you can customize them and build them a bunch of different ways. So you could buy 2 or 3 of the exact same thing and just kind of put it together different ways, and it works great. The painting is, like I said, a little touchy in the priming. You want to find a really good filler primer to kind of soak in and not have the very thirsty MDF suck up a lot of your primer initially. You want to, you know, have something that sort of, I don't want to say clogs it, but you want to do that to help also kind of smooth the surface a little bit, because this is still technically wood-esque. So if you don't want the thing to look like it's made out of wood, you do want as a bit of a smoother surface, so filler primer works great. Anyway, I'm a big fan of MDF terrain. I like the building and putting together. If I'm not going to build something completely from scratch, then I generally like to go this direction. So if you've got any comments about MDF terrain and you've got any kind of information about maybe companies that you really like or companies that you maybe haven't or whatever, let me know in the comments below, because I think that this kind of stuff is stuff that maybe, a lot of people know about it, but newer players don't necessarily know about the benefits of MDF terrain. And, there's no reason not to have a lot of different kits available for people to see. So, yeah, get yourself some flat buildings, build them up, make them look cool, paint them, and you've got something for your guys to hide behind and probably get shot near if you're me. But they're great. I think they're great additions to pretty much any kind of battle board. And flat, like IKEA luggage, no,